Let's call the meeting to order. First item of business is if you turn off your cell phones or turn them to vibrate. Next is the approval of the claims. Whoops, let's do the minutes first.
Move on the minutes.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Did we only have the one set, Pat?
Yes.
Next, the approval of the claims.
Move it.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. JD. I'll pass around the,
And move on the personnel report.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'll pass around the report for signatures.
Larry, I got something to ask.
Go ahead.
With all this discussion on Obamacare, are we going to be okay? I keep getting a lot of people asking me that, you know, they're worried that their spouses aren't going to be allowed on our insurance and everything else.
What we're required to do by October 1st is to provide a communication out to all department employees and their spouses. And that has been done. It went out to the department. It's a 2 to 3 page letter explaining the Obamacare, our health insurance, and they can't get health insurance, what their rights, remedies, and privileges are. But accordingly, our plan is sound, it's fine, and we're within regulation and where it needs to be.
Okay. Good to hear.
Okay.
Thanks.
Next item is the approval of resolution approving a petition for a suspension of taxes through the redemption process for MC.
Move it. Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Have a resolution for the abatement of taxes for St. Thomas Episcopal Church.
Move it.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Motion carries. We have the approval of reappointments to the Prevention Commission for Use at Risk. Is there a motion?
Move it.
Second.
We did have a meeting a couple weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, and discussed the future of the Prevention Commission, and if people did want to continue to sit on it. The commission is in the process of drafting a summary letter of what they've done in the past year, and plan to come before the board. And everyone also expressed interest in serving and wanted to continue the commission.
We also need, we've got Scarlett position that's going to be open. Will there be a recommendation from your board or not?
There was not one, because maybe at that time she wasn't there, was she?
She wasn't
at the
there.
last meeting.
She sent me an email.
Okay.
saying that she couldn't do it.
Do you want us, I believe we meet tomorrow, do you want us to discuss that and come back to the recommendation on?
Yes, and then any board member that has a recommendation, that'd be great too.
Right, okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Motion carries. Tracy Henke. George, you want to read this? You read much better than I do.
Tracy, Woodbury County, resolution thanking and commending Tracy Henke for service of Woodbury County, whereas Tracy Henke has capably served Woodbury County as an employee of Woodbury County Disaster and Emergency Services Department for 20 years, from June 23rd to 1993 to September 1, 2013, And whereas the service given by Tracy Hinkey as a Woodbury County employee has been characterized by her dedicated to the best interests of the citizens of Woodbury County, and now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Supervisors of Woodbury County, Iowa, that the undersigned members of the board thank and commend Tracy Hinkey for her years of service to Woodbury County, and be it further resolved that it is the wishes of all those signed below that the future hold only the best years deserved for this person, Tracy Hinkey. Be it resolved the 10th day of September 2013. We're a little late with this, but we got it done. Woodbury County Board of Supervisors. Tracy.
Congratulations.
We need to hug this time.
Tracy, if you'd like to give a speech, you can.
Thanks, everyone.
Welcome, Tracy.
Tracy's done a great job for us. She's been very instrumental in taking our policies and procedures, tracking our data, helping with our training, kind of blazed the way for a lot of other females in the EMS and that's the business. Good job, Tracy.
Discussion and decision on courthouse security. I'm going to turn this over to George Boykin. He was the chairperson of this committee. And Boykin.
Okay, thank you. And I want you to jump in anytime you want to, Larry. This committee started meeting in February of this year, and we've had meetings monthly, you know, and discussion of courthouse security, and also discussion of the entire system as far as our buildings are concerned, and that's with Trosperhoit, the LEC, and whatever. And it's been a lot of great discussion with the people on the committee. And I think that we've reached a point here where I want to make a recommendation, and I think the committee as a whole too wants to make a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors that we can accept, you know, the concept of this, and also I want to make some individual recommendations based on our meetings on the Security Committee. We also had the luxury of going over and touring the federal courthouse and their security system a few months back, which was quite enlightening to see what they have over there. They have the state-of-the-art, you know, security system for their system. We can't afford that at this particular point in time, but we certainly can look at what we can do as a minimum in this courthouse. We have had some issues in the past relative to security, and I think it's important that we continue to move on this thing. The environment has changed a lot as far as security for you know, the nation and for the locally for our own safety and for the public safety. And I think that we need to take some action here today on where we're going with this thing. One of the other things that we have to consider too, and that we talked about, is how we are going to fund this particular program. And as I said, we looked at, you know, the entire system as far as if you will, relative to the three main buildings that we have in Woodbury County, and that, like I said, is the LEC and Trosperhoit and the courthouse. And I think the committee wanted to start with the courthouse as a start. And we also looked at it from the comprehensive standpoint too, that once we do something here, we're going to have to move on to the other two facilities. And we want to do something that it's not going to be so overwhelming financially for the county that we can't afford to do it and do it right for the county. And we want to take it on a step-by-step situation. There is still a lot of unanswered questions here as far as how we finance this thing, particularly with the equipment and also with the employee, who's going to I want to say man and woman this thing as far as the security is concerned. But I do think that we're going to have to do something here with it. As you can see, and I'm sorry, the media, I thought that this information was included in the agenda stuff. It was on our iPad, but I don't think that you got this piece of information here, which should have been included, for everybody. But I think I was overruled by somebody anyway in getting that out to you. But I think you have copies of it this morning. Do you all have it? Okay.
She had that one, yeah, but we'll make sure she.
Okay, good. Because that should have went out to everybody on the, last Thursday anyway, when I approved the agenda. But anyway, as you can see from the stuff that we have here, we are going to need equipment for this building. We're talking about cameras on the outside of the perimeter of this facility. We're talking about cameras on the inside, on the first floor. We're talking about door locks on the west side that needs to be taken care of, so that we are only going to have one entry point on the north side. We also, one of the major unanswered concerns that we have is that we're probably going to have to move the handicap lift from the northeast part of this building and bring it to the front of the building where it used to be years ago. That has changed too. So we're looking at some financial things here that we don't have answers for yet, that we're going to have to go out for bids on. So I think what I'm going to do at this point, stop here and allow the board and also committee people, particularly the sheriff's department and other committee people that may be in the audience, to address some of the other issues that maybe I have not gone over in this particular outline.
So the discussion now is about hardware that's needed. Is that?
As far as I'm concerned, it's where we're at, because it's going to be a one-time cost once we install this equipment in the building and on the outside of it.
So it says in the memo it will be monitored by the sheriff's department. Will that be at the doorway, or where? Have you thought about where does
we've talked about that, and as far as the monitoring is concerned, it's going to be taken care of by the individuals that is going to be put in the position of security for the courthouse, but that's going to have to be somewhere else in the courthouse. I mean, we're going to have a monitoring situation in another room. We don't want to have that right at the front door at all. I mean, we're going to have it in a separate location. Am I correct, Major Solomon? Okay.
And will that take someone extra other than what you've listed here to monitor? I mean, is that included in?
Well, that to me is going to be included in the total number of people or persons that's going to be monitoring and the courthouse security. Again, the devil's in the details, but I'm thinking about we're talking about a set amount of money to get this done initially in the courthouse. If it's $150,000 or if it's $230,000 for the monitoring and also the security, that I don't want it to be an escalating cost, and I don't want it to be an open budget here where we look at each and every year that the cost is going to escalate based on the amount of time spent and equipment bought.
Have you gone out for formal bids on?
We have not gone out on.
So this is an estimate?
No, this is just a guesstimate. We've gotten some RFPs or they're not bids, but information from companies that would be eligible to bid on equipment in the building, and I don't want to expose those yet because that'd be kind of unfair. So the board needs to look at that if we want to go there with this, because like I said, there's a lot of unanswered questions here yet as far as the amount of money that's going to cost us to move, particularly the lift. I think the cameras for the building and the door closures for the west side of the building, maybe it's going to be maybe the cheap part, but the other portion of it is going to be kind of expensive.
I'm going to give a minority report here. I have never been for this. I appreciate being on the committee. I personally, and this is personal, don't see the need to do this. The federal building, maybe they've deterred that over there. I think they've had one problem in how many years, Greg?
I don't know on the federal courthouse.
Well, when you took the tour, I think they mentioned they've had one incident.
One incident.
In 15 years or whatever it is. I just don't know how secure you want to make a public building, make people have to go through metal detectors, wands, what have you. But that's my personal feeling, and I just thought I'd put it out there. I'm not for this. The costs, they can be locked down better than they are now. And I think there's probably another 100,000 maybe. So this thing will probably end up costing right around 300,000 to get up and running. Then you're going to have 160 maybe a year for personnel. I don't know how often cameras break down or monitors break down. You've got a cost there. But that's my feeling, and any of the other members on this committee, feel free.
I'd like to hear from the rest of the board members.
Oh.
Well, yeah,
I really
my
would.
feeling is I never voted for the policy when you guys put the policy in effect for the carrying of the weapons in this facility. My exact words to you guys were, if you can't detour it at the door, what's the point of a policy? It's just a worthless policy. So if we can get security and everything else to help people feel safe in this building, I don't know why we're not doing it. People are worried about it, otherwise we wouldn't keep coming back to this.
I think it's a national trend.
Well, national, local, whatever it is, until we can make people feel safe, we need to do something. That's our job here, to make people feel safe.
I feel secure.
You do. Until that day somebody walks through the door and doesn't like us.
Comments from Mark Munson.
I think it should have been done years ago. My understanding is we're putting in the hardware phase 1 and the people phase 2.
If we can afford this, I mean, where are we going to find the money?
I don't think it's a matter of affording it. I think it's a matter of getting it done. What do we wait for somebody to be hurt and then do it? I mean, that's a little
Too late.
too late. The odds get better every day, and I think the sooner we get it done, the better. The camera surveillance, I think, is excellent. We need to know what's going on around this building. I mean, you walk into any public store, and they track you from the minute you get out of your car until you get back in it, and we don't. There's a disconnect there.
Well, we deal with a lot of volatile situations in this building, particularly, the courthouse. I'm not saying that the jail doesn't, but we got law enforcement in the jail all the time, 24/7. And that's why I think that, the courthouse, takes a little bit of priority. We do have security in it, and the sheriff can talk from that standpoint, but we have a lot of trials going on in this courthouse that create environments that's not very conducive to good behavior by individuals. So I think that's why I made this building probably the priority. And I think it's important for us to be, as you say, proactive in what we're doing here. And because one life is
Right.
you can't put a price on it.
Before you speak, Chair, I want to say one other thing. I'm not saying that, you know, doing this is gonna detour everything.
No, it's not.
I mean, I could walk out the door from my other job and
Absolutely.
there could be people there. But with at least, if people realize that there's cameras around the building and there's security, they're gonna think twice before coming up here and doing something.
We hope. We hope.
I'm going to weigh in just for a minute, too. I am supportive of this. I think what our public needs to realize that it is going to require tax dollars to fund it ongoing, and that we will possibly need to look at raising taxes to pay for security if we can't find it within our existing budget. And I just want to be upfront. I guess with the citizens of our county, I personally think it's worth it. And to wait for something to happen and wished we would have done something is not acceptable to me. So I plan on talking to my neighbors and people I come in contact with and try to do my best job to explain why I think it's necessary. So, and get people to weigh in on the discussion.
Sheriff, you're on the committee.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity. I think we worked together well over the several months that we got together, and we ironed out a lot of different things. And the cameras are important, but one thing that we have to remember about cameras is they do have a shelf life. So in our capital improvement plan, we need to make sure that 5 years down the road, we're probably looking at upgrading, because equipment doesn't last forever. But without cameras, or with cameras, you still need people. And I think we've come to a really good way of utilizing resources, and those are some part-time retired law enforcement reservists, or whatever, however we want to call their positions. And I think that would be beneficial. Checking when we went up to Minnehaha County, that's what the sheriff did there. He had a calendar and he filled it up with retired law enforcement, and he said he never had trouble filling
Right,
it.
that's what we talked about in our last committee
Yeah,
meeting, and that
so-
would be a good solution, I think.
I think so, and I think we can get away with some other things that we've discussed that wouldn't come into play, all the benefits that go with that. So I think that we've looked at ways to save the taxpayers' money, but yet I believe there's an obligation to make sure that we're safe. The courts, people that come in with domestics, our judges are handling domestics with no one in the building except us running across the street. And quite frankly, if they hit the buzzer and we're running across the street, it may be too late. And we don't want that to happen, and I know no one does. And that's what we face today with all the domestics that we handle, the mental hearings. The jurors, we have to make sure our jurors are safe when they're in the building. Sometimes verdicts come back and people are upset. Family members don't like that. We have to make sure. And this day and age, I think we're putting them out in a difficult situation. So, listen, you guys have gone over this for years and discussed it, and I'm glad that we're stepping forward here. This is important for the safety and security of the building, our employees. For Pat, in the election times, I think we may make exceptions that maybe we'll have to have somebody monitor that door, because I want to make sure that people can come in and vote on those days when I know that the general elections are very busy. So we can make certain exceptions, and maybe we'll have maybe an extra staff person that day or something to help out. So we can accommodate people so they're in and out. I will say this, running through that security conveyor belt, or whatever you want to call it, similar to the airport, it's quick, people will be in and out, and it's not going to be any inconvenience. We don't have the technology of the new deal that the airports have. You have been in it where they scan your body. We're not getting into all that. All we're doing is running a package through in a quick wand. We're
Glad about that.
I hate that part.
Yeah, listen,
why I don't fly
I'm not
very
very
much.
good when I go to the airport either. Something about all
I
these
think
different
that's
rules.
kind of
but,
intrusive,
Uh,
really intrusive.
Give it a few years and we'll get one for you.
Yeah, probably right. Yeah, who knows? It'll be a hand-me-down from the marshals, and we appreciate the marshals giving us their equipment, and it's all good equipment, and I think the public some may not like it, some may, but you know what? I think err on the side of precaution, and that's.
I do think when we get into phase 2, we need to make sure we can do this contractually.
Yeah, I have no problems with any of that, right?
That's all been looked at.
Yeah, it's been looked at. We'll be looking at that, but where I'm going right now is, with the board anyway, Sheriff, and the committee as a whole, is I would like for us, if we can, but I'm not sure we can do that, because initially when we started out in February, the idea was to finance this out of riverboat funds, but since that time, we've had problems in getting funds from riverboat. We don't have, the riverboat is now behind in paying us for the quarters that they do, and we don't have those dollars at this point. So
George,
I'm kind of reluctant on that.
I've got to stop you. We've got a set time. I just checked. We have.
But I'll
we
start
have
back
to do
with
it.
that when we start discussing.
We'll be back in a minute. Mark, we have to receive and consider bids for project number LBX9 73-97.
This bid is for replacement of a bridge on 280th Street, east of Taylor Avenue. That bridge is the one that we had to close, it was late or early August due to a failure of a mud sill. Our first bid is from Dixon Construction of Correctionville, Iowa. We have,
Oh, yeah, bid sheet. Got it.
It's always gonna fly, I guess.
in case anybody wants to keep track of the contractors, everybody got one of these ones? You can see close to the cameras looking, so I'm assuming you didn't need one. Again, the first one is from Dixon Construction Company of Correctionville. Bid bond is included. Bid price, $172,420. 172,420. Second one is from Graves Construction of Spencer, Iowa. Bid is $227,821.75. 227-821-75. And the third bid is from Gus Construction of Casey, Iowa. Their bid is $174,471.12. 174,471.12. Recommend that board accept the bids and allow us to check them for any mathematical error or other errors.
Move it.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll get back to you, Mark.
Yep.
Back to the courthouse security discussion.
Anyway, regarding, the financing for this, and we can talk to, I think we can discuss that again and among ourselves and also with Dennis and where the funds might lie for the initial part of it that I would like to make a recommendation on. I would, first of all, like to make a recommendation on that we should probably go out for bids for the cameras for the building on the outside and also the inside of the facility, and also we need to look at going out for bids and looking for the removal of the current handicap equipment and placing it in the north side of the facility, and then the board can make a decision on acceptance of those bids or non-acceptance of it. But I really think that we need to install the equipment now so that we're ready to go, because we did discuss in the security committee that we probably won't get it done this fiscal year, but we can get it into this next fiscal year's budget for the actual implementation and application of the whole thing. But the equipment needs to be installed now, as far as I'm concerned.
I'd make a motion that we go out for bids on the equipment needed.
I'd second that.
Discussion.
Yes. The discussion would be, given the state of not knowing about our riverboat funds,
Right.
and I'm somewhat hesitant to obligate that money until it starts coming in again. If you get bids too soon, are they accurate if you have to wait until closer to July to install it? So,
Most bids have 90 days or less as far as if they're good or not.
The camera bids are even less than that, that I found out from the sheriff.
so that's,
We're not, I don't think we're saying that we're gonna go ahead and man it and everything else, but I think what
No, we're
George
talking
wants
about
is the cameras.
The cameras, the equipment.
Equipment.
The wheelchair, because we need to know what, particularly the wheelchair thing, what that's gonna cost us to install and put on the north side of the building as we had before, and the changes of those doors over there too.
right.
Well, then what the motion is for is to go out for bids,
Bids.
not to accept the
Right,
bids.
go out for bids for the equipment, and
And I would support that.
because I think the biggest estimate's gonna be the manpower for it.
Yeah,
I think the biggest,
manpower, we're
yeah.
not doing. So,
We had a
is
motion.
everybody clear on this motion?
I'm clear on it. I'm still wondering if we get bids, how long the bids, or 90 days, just sort of, I mean, it's probably close enough. I just don't want to get a bid and then have to sit on it because we don't,
And the money, the money situation may be resolved within the next 30 to 90 days, I hope. You never know.
I'm
with,
not gonna count on that happening
reading the
either.
paper with Penn National suing everybody underneath the sun, holding up things. That's what's, the issue is really here. But I think that we should go for it and get the bids in, and because the environment could change relative to that within the next 30 to 60 days, as far as I'm concerned.
Can you stipulate when you send out for bids that you go
I think that
further out than 90? You say like 120 or 180? So you want bids for at least that long, your estimates?
Good.
Well, you can say that, you just won't get it. I mean, their bids are for X, X duration.
Well, I understand that, but if you tell them this is what we want, either
I
they
think
can bid or they don't.
the bids on the
They
cameras are
can't
more
control the
short-term,
prices.
Sheriff,
You don't
than
have to-
anything else. So we really, because I don't want to obligate the bidders, and say that, we go out for bids at the end of October and we're going to install this stuff at the end of, in the beginning of December or whatever, and we can't do it.
Right.
Maybe we should wait until November to do the cameras, but I think that we really need to go out and do some research and get the bids on the wheelchair equipment, because that's going to take some time, and I think that they have more longevity than anything else. The door locks is not going to a real expensive item. That's the thing I think that can come. We can find the cash for right now, and putting the door locks on these west side doors that we need to have done. But the installation and the cameras, since the bidders don't like to extend on those, I think that we can probably wait until November to get those bids in. And the environment may have changed by that time.
so what's the motion?
The motion is to go out for bids, but we can, as a board, determine when the bids goes out for the cameras.
Okay, I understand now.
Still good with that?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. As a minority report, I got shot down. We'll get this, I do appreciate being part of the committee though, and you learn a lot. we'll get, yes, sir.
Before you proceed much further, is there going to be some sort of education process for the rest of the folks in this that work in the?
There will be. We talked about that also, that there is going to be an education process for the for everybody that's going to be entering the facility, and I think that us and the sheriff will probably take care of that and how that information is going to be disseminated among the various departments. Right now, we feel that that everybody, including ourselves, the judges, is going to have to come through security. Once we get the thing implemented, so that we all get used to it and we know that everything is working. Because the most unsecure part of the facility, as you folks know, is the east side of our building here, where we come in through the alley and most of the deliveries are made there. There's going to be cameras there. I mean, we're going to have a full visibility of that area. We're going to have to determine the devil's in the details. We're going to have to know who and what comes in to this on this alley side exit and entry area. So there will be some education. So that's part of it. That's part of it too. You're absolutely good question.
And really, it's not going to affect anybody until we start the process. Right now, we're just talking about camera security and chairlifts and
Right, and
what have you.
but everybody needs to know that everybody's going to have to come through it.
Yeah, that's because the employees have to be screened.
Absolutely.
And there's can't be any exceptions because, well, the latest one in Washington, an employee, not somebody off the street.
Absolutely. And we also know that included in this, we're going to have to issue fobs for all of the employees, of the state and also county employees, because there will be occasions on weekends, because we're not going to have this operating during the weekends where folks will be needing to get in this facility and they'll need fobs to get into the building. But of course, all of that is computer recorded, and we know when folks come in the building and where they come in it, that's going to be monitored like that. And we're also going to have to identify where we're going to have that separate monitoring area in this facility. We do have room for it, but just going to have to identify it.
No express lane?
No express line.
We'll work on that.
Have you checked out, or do you know, are there state or federal grants to buy any of
We
the
haven't
equipment?
looked at that.
Well, on our equipment,
On the equipment?
for the cameras, I'm not sure, but for our scanner and that, that was given to us, so we're good there. But, yeah, on the cameras, I'm not sure.
That's all kind
It'd
of
be
dried
nice.
up. It would be
Yeah,
very nice.
everybody's grabbing money.
I know it.
Okay,
Thank you.
Mr. Nara.
We have a series of resolutions to attempt to control the speed and traffic down in the area where CF Industries is utilizing existing county roads as haul roads or as personnel access during construction. We've conducted some traffic studies and speed studies down the area. Our goal is to try to make sure that the folks who live out there are as safe as we can make them, and that with the narrow roads and the amount of trucks going in, that speeds are kept reasonable so that there are no accidents to the maximum ability to control that down there. The first is a resolution to establish a stop sign at the intersection of 235th Street and Allison Avenue. It's currently westbound and eastbound traffic is controlled with a stop. This is adding a second stop for north and southbound traffic.
And move it.
Second.
These are resolutions for all the board to sign.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
It also requires the auditor to attest. Next one we have is approval of a speed limit on 235th Street. This would establish the speed limit at 45 miles per hour. There's
Move
one
it.
house in this stretch.
Move it.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next one we have is speed limit on Allison Avenue. This is from Sully Drive, which is the road on the south edge of the airport, all the way south to the end of county maintenance, south of 240th Street.
Move it.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The statutory speed limit on these roads is 55 from sunrise to sunset, 50 from sunset to sunrise, so. The final one is on 225th Street. This road is already regulated by the city out through the west city limits at 35. We're maintaining that 35-mile-an-hour speed limit through that corridor.
Move it. Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Jackie, this out.
Thank you.
Yep.
John?
Good morning.
Morning.
This is a consideration of a subdivision application received from the Truckee family. They wish to take an existing parcel of 12 acres north of where they live and divide it into 2 lots. The southern lot would serve as a buffer between them and the sale of the northern part of the 12-acre lot to a third party. I'd ask you to consider forward to the Zoning Commission for public hearing and recommendation. Be happy to answer any questions.
They just want to sell that property, so that's why they're splitting these up?
Correct.
Okay.
I move that we refer to zoning commission for recommendation.
Second.
I thought we'd already done this.
No.
It hasn't gone before planning and zoning?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. Patty Erickson.
What the board has before it today is the Justice Assistance Grant that is shared on the disparate allocation process with the City of Sioux City. We did receive, the board had approved submission of the grant. They've awarded the grant funds, so now we have to accept the grant funds and all the special conditions which relate to federal regulations and processes. So what the board needs to do today is formally accept the award, providing the chairman the opportunity to sign and submit, and then designation of, basically the board has always designated me to submit the paperwork back electronically to accept the grant.
Is there a motion?
Move it.
Second for the chair to sign.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I need to move to submit electronically and appoint Patty as the, what are you? The caretaker? The what?
Grant management.
Grant management.
Let's second that.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Can I say something, Patty? I mean, we haven't included you, Patty, on this safety thing when we're talking about equipment, you know, the cameras, you know, specifically, and also the movement of the handicap chair from where it's currently located to a suggested new place on the front door. It used to be, as you know, there on the front. So we need to work with you on that and determine, you know, what kinds of things that we need to get done, particularly on the handicap chair.
Yeah.
This one that we have now, as you know, is not adequate enough to do the heavy lifting on some of the chairs that's available, particularly the scooters chairs and that kind of thing with the batteries in them. You know, I wouldn't even risk my life in going on that thing right now.
There are going to be restrictions on how,
Yeah.
because there may not be lifts out there that can accommodate anything more than, 750 pounds. So those considerations, those have to be seriously looked at. I mean,
Right.
you can only build to, an amount, and if somebody, that discussion can be had. I have looked at the cameras. The sheriff's office did get in touch with me on
Okay.
that. Those are some of the trade-offs that you have to do for security and operational. Yes, it's a historic building. There's going to be other concerns when it comes to the entrance and accessibility there.
Right.
And I think you have to go into it, if you go into it knowing that, to replace those doors, that would be problematic. To make those doors accommodate the accessibility standards, that can be done, the existing doors. So,
They
I mean,
don't,
there's-
they don't open automatically right now. I mean, you don't,
no,
can't
they
press a
don't
button.
automatically open right now, but the problem is those doors you have out there, if you just open one door, they don't meet the accessibility standards for width for an individual to access the courthouse. So you either have to have both of them, sorry.
Both of them open.
Both of them open at the same time to give that width, or, you're not gonna be in
Right.
compliance there. So there's some things, it used to be that we had those, God, this is horrible. I'm old enough now that I remember what we had there. And we had the electronic doors
Yeah.
that opened and, kind of folded back. And it gave the entire then opening for passage. That met requirements. One of our problems with that at the time was, and I'm sure technology has improved considerably, we had leaves that would open the doors.
Yeah, and it'd
you
go
know.
right in.
Yeah, and January, north doors open, that could be pretty ugly.
Yeah.
So there's just things that you have to look at, and I think all those things can be, and I have called the State Historical Society in the past to ask them, if there's been any kind of X-ray equipment or anything like that that could be hidden easily. No, they aren't aware of any. So the historical buildings have to adjust there. You can downplay that by location and stuff like that. There's a
Right.
lot of things to consider, so that can and can't be done, but
Okay.
Well, you'll
Well-
be
you
at,
just have to be aware of them going in and not plan for
Right.
just a lift. You're gonna have to do something with those doors
With
out
those
there.
doors too, I knew that.
Yep,
you'll be actively involved in this, so.
on this
Sounds
portion of it.
expensive.
Well, what I want to do
It's
is...
going to be. There's
Yeah,
no
I
question about
want
it.
to sit down with you and also with Mark Elgert so that we can get a really, truly good handle on that, because that's going to be one of our most expensive layouts
Did you
as far as getting that changed around
Yeah.
over there. And I can see, that both those doors are going to have to be utilized and opened so that people have accessibility. And as I said, those scooter chairs now I've seen, they've got batteries on them that weigh 65 pounds, and I know that the scooter must weigh about 125, 30 pounds. And then you put a person that as big as I am that weighs about 150.
Balloons over
You got 300 pounds
600.
right away. I'm just joking. But,
knew that.
we're going to have to really look at that
Yeah, we knew
seriously.
that.
We knew that.
Yeah.
Oh, surprise.
So, yeah, I mean, anytime, we can discuss that and look at that and, adjust where we need to.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
And Karen sent you an email. Did you get that yet? That's all right. It's about flags in here, so.
Oh, no, I
Let me know
hadn't,
the answer to
haven't
that.
gotten that.
Okay. Oh, Gary came back. Approval of memorandum of understanding for the 2014 EMS system development grant. What this
Kind of a
does?
housekeeping item, we approved the grant a few weeks ago. The state of Iowa came back and is asking for the memorandum of understanding for the SharePoint accounting software system with the Board of Supervisors. What I'm asking for today is the board authorize the chairman to sign that MOU with the State Department of Public Health.
Move it.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Gary. Dwight?
Dwight.
Dwight Lang, Executive Director of Simcoe, Ron Burton, the Executive Assistant. I was here 2 weeks ago. We were talking trust fund, and of the counties that we were going to talk to, you were number one. And as we were looking at the application for this, if you remember, I don't know if you need an update from that a couple weeks ago, but there was a question on there that said, is the local match secured, yes or no? And the application didn't say if you checked yes, what was the consequences? Well, I had Judy inquire with Iowa Finance Authority, and come to be, if you check no, and you don't, whatever you don't have secured, or if you don't have any of the funds secured, they don't award any. Even if you have the local match later, if it isn't at the time you apply on October 1, they throw it out for the year and you have to wait till the next year. So in the process, as we went to the other counties and coming back to you, is we would have to secure the funds and show that they're secured in the app, and why we were asking for 15 a county, so that we would be awarded the funds. Otherwise, they won't even be awarded now. And that would have to be for this year because it's January 1. So it really puts the pressure, and I apologize on the timing. So I understand, but I wanted to come back to you so you knew that, because things have changed just since I came here on the 10th. So we did go to the other counties and have secured 3 of those other counties, but didn't Ida. They just didn't feel like it was more of, most of the assistance would be in the cities, so they felt like it was the city's issues, not the countywide issues. So I can't disagree with that, because I think it's a lot better if it comes from the counties. We can open it up to everybody in the county and all the cities and all the rural areas. But that was their choice. But 3 of them did commit 15 for the project, and we can obtain whatever funds we've secured. So it's not an all or nothing of that $302,537. But the 15 would secure $60,000 for Woodbury, so there would be $75,000 available for owner-occupied housing rehab if we knew the commitment was there. It's not saying the grant can't come later, but if it wouldn't, we have to know that the match is there, or IFA would probably decertify us, because that's one of their strict requirements. So,
How long do you need it for?
well, it would be 15 would be for this cycle, and 14.
I understand,
Yeah.
but the award is going to be January 1st, January?
Yes, January would be for the beginning of the year, calendar year, for the next calendar year.
Okay, so you'd want a commitment through January, and then if the award didn't come through,
If we didn't get the award, then yeah, we wouldn't need the match. But I think we've got our ducks in a row that if at this point, as we understand it, if we have the match, it's going to be, whatever match we have will be awarded, funds will be awarded, and we do have 45,000, so we would receive 3/5 of that 302 now, based on that local match
so you'll
security.
be talking 4 counties.
We'd be talking 4 counties.
Is this a one-time match, or do you have to do this on an annual
Well,
basis?
technically, somehow or way, there's been funding available every year through this. Again, it depends on what money the legislature puts there. Last year it was $6 million, this year it's close to 7.9.
So if
But it's an annual,
It's an ongoing match?
it's an ongoing,
So,
yes.
so this would be a one-time match for us, and then we could just continue to apply?
Well, next year will probably be the same thing, if there's no other sources of match.
Another
I mean,
15,000?
15 every
You
year
just
if
don't
you
pay
want to
one.
keep doing it. Yes,
Well, and-
that's the sad thing, it doesn't stop,
But
if you want to
but
use
Dwight
it.
would have to come back.
Right.
Yeah, it'd have to
Yes,
come
this
back.
is just one grant cycle, one amount. We'd have to come back and talk next year, probably, if we know the amounts. I don't think we know before your budget cycle, that's the problem, because they don't normally come out with those numbers until summer, and you're already proved it by March, but we'd have to have somebody give you some estimate of what we're thinking and go from there, year by year. But there is a match every year, so,
Sioux City has their own housing trust, correct?
yes. So
So
for your
this would
county, it'd
be
be everything
outside of
else.
Sioux City.
That's correct. All the other communities and the rural areas outside of Sioux City. And it does include the rural areas that a lot of grants usually are by city. So if there was, and I know many think there's not probably a lot in the rural area, but it would be, people would be eligible.
Well, I would move it to take it out of local option.
I'd second that.
Further discussion?
January 1, right?
That's when, yep, should be next.
All those,
calendar year.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I appreciate it. Thank you for consideration.
Next item on the agenda is hearing of any individual or group that wish to make a presentation of items not on the agenda and/or supervisors' concerns. Mark?
Just word one update on Bob Logan's bridge. We've done some research.
You've named it or what?
Bob Logan's bridge. It's his bridge now?
This bridge is like 140th Street, but C86 is its number. However way you wish to title it, but I do have some information I can share with you and some photos.
Go ahead.
Can I drive a second? Yeah. I think I need to be closer or I can't read the screen.
It's a good thing I mess with those computers. There's no way I can do that, Jackie.
You could.
This is the 1938 string shot showing the course of the West Fork of the Little Sioux. I'm following her roughly with the arrow here as it lays on his line. You can see it was quite a bit wider back at that point in time.
That was what year?
That was 1938. Now I just gotta find where that, I'm not as familiar with the new operating systems that he gives us. There we go. Now we come to 1950. See, there's not a lot of change to it. You can see on this one a little more detail. You can see an old meander scar that lays between the bridge. I wish I had that arrow down here, but you can see that old channel scar that's there. Now we have 2008, and this is fairly close to the current condition of the bridge. And I use this one as a way of illustrating that there was a question on why the riprap was placed over here. And the reason for that is you can see this stream is meandering, and it's actually cutting back into that bank. We have placed a weir downstream that shows up in this picture.
Now, what's a weir?
That's one of the Hungry Canyons type structures.
That deflects the water?
Prevent scour from working its way upstream.
Okay.
When was
And-
that, Mark, when was that placed?
1997, this
Oh,
is the
that
plans
was-
for it.
okay.
And you can see, if we get out here, the stream's coming around, and then it's coming back into this bank where that riprap is that he was questioning. At the time that they did this project, there was an inquiry about going in and riprapping more of the opposite bank. This was funded by FEMA and the NRCS. Once you got beyond this point, this was the approved project, this was determined what was necessary to protect the bridge. That's the goal of the Emergency Watershed Program. That's what EWP stands for, and FEMA. Their entire goal was protection of the bridge, not preserving his channel. They did attempt to get funding for it, but this was all the project that was able to be funded. This is the original bridge situation plan, and you can see that in 1969, when the bridge was built, the channel looked pretty much like it did in that 1980 aerial photo. I just grabbed some of the photos from the file. This is the 1998 view of the area that he's using for his access. You can see at that point in time they were farming across it. I tried to take one from about that same location. And it's no longer being farmed on that corner. But the width isn't a whole lot different. And that's one of those things that weir structure helps do is if you haven't got that channel degraded, you tend to start to stabilize some of those tails of the channel moves upstream. This is the bank in 1998. This was after the flood that occurred there. This point deposit is the one he was referring to. It's pretty well upstream of the riprap. This is the way 99 looked. This is the way it looks today. You can see that here's that nose of the riprap that showed up from the plans. Here's some crushed concrete and such that's been placed by him. This is the point deposit, and that's the way streams work. They cut the outside edge, and in the inside, that velocity is slower. Sediment drops out and creates those banks, and it's just a constant process in what they call a meandering stream of it cutting back and forth. This is the way that riprap looks, and you can see that that channel is still cutting in from this side. And without this riprap on this bank, there's a possibility of it cutting to the east, and eventually, the bigger danger to the bridge is getting in behind from the east side, which is what they recognized at the time of the EWP project. This is just looking from the center line of the bridge upstream. It's a pretty well vegetated bank. I think what Mr. Logan would like to see is to have this cut off, toss it over here, and then riprap that for him.
Is the bridge structurally sound, and is any of the meandering and changing of that impacting the bridge as suggested?
In its current condition, yes, I think the bridge is structurally stable. If anything needed to be done, the county within its right-of-way could add additional riprap to buttress this corner. We can come right down that ditch. We're somewhat protected by the driveway embankment that runs back in through here. It would need to degrade a lot of material for it to affect us. I don't find my recommendations any different than what they came up with at the EWP. As I told you last week, I don't think this is an area where we have an obligation to go out and protect that edge of that field that showed up on the photos. I can prepare a response to him on that basis. I don't know if the borough board wanted to do anything official other than direct me to reply, but I think this is where it ought to lay. This project was about $228,000, if I recall correctly, with the weir and the bank protection that was placed at the time of this project. Again, that was funded by FEMA and following the 98 flood on Williamsport.
So your advice is to do nothing?
That's correct, yes. Okay. I think that bank protection should be his to take care of. I mean, he could request a channel project through Corps of Engineers, but I don't believe that's something that's necessary from the county's perspective.
Show me the picture again where it's taking out the field. Isn't that what he said last week? Something about his field?
This one here?
That's back in 98. Where's the field now? On the opposite side there?
This is looking at the same corner of the bridge. His driveway comes and he drives across here.
But he's not farming on this side.
He's not farming on this side anymore, but nobody's farming with a four-row planter anymore. That's almost 18 years of difference in farm operation.
But like I said, when he came to us last week, he says he's losing his field. Where's he losing the field? On the other side?
Well, again, this is the way it looked. And there's 98 and 99. That's the way it looks today from almost the same place.
And that is not something we get involved with.
I understand that, but I wanted to see where he meant that he was losing his field. I don't see where he's losing anything.
Well, the better thing to do might be to go to those aerial photos. Okay, here's 2010.
It's cut quite ways back in there.
Okay.
That's 1950.
Well, I'm not an engineer,
But
but
again, I don't see a lot of difference between.
it looks like somebody missed the ball or somewhere when placing that riprap and the velocity of that stream during times when you get heavy rains or tremendous snow melts with water running down, because there has been a loss of ground down there.
Okay.
But most of
That
that has
helps.
occurred, very little has occurred since 1998's flood. I don't have a 1998 aerial of this area, but if you recall the ground photos, that being 2013,
Right there is 2013.
there's 1999, so that's 14 years.
Okay.
And
Okay.
there hasn't been a lot of movement in
Okay.
the last, since that 98 flood, I think was.
I thought that was 2013 right there, but that's
No,
not.
This is
Okay.
99, and that was yesterday.
Okay.
What's the board's pleasure, just have Mark writing the letter, or?
Well, can we even tell him what to do? I mean, he wasn't on the agenda about this, or do you care? I mean,
Well,
does
if
he?
you want me to come back formally next week, I can do that. I just want to give you some information so you know what we found in our records.
Well, let's come back formally, I would think, next week, and then make sure that he's here to see what's going on. Send a notice to Mr. Logan.
Or he can just go out and see Mark, maybe, at the
We can do
office.
that too. He knows where to find me. We did go out for a drive. I didn't record the date, but you know, again, we've been trying to get things done down at CF. This was,
Yeah.
with the lack of movement out there, it was the thing we were looking at for winter work. With these type of things, on occasion, we will track them like we've done up off of D12, like we're doing off of Mason Avenue. Our staff has gone out, we'll get GPS monumentation out there and
Yeah.
see how much that stream might be moving.
Yeah, I would like to see
But at
that.
this time, you know, I don't really feel we have any business being in there to do any channel change or channel correction work.
Okay.
Okay.
I also don't think we have any reason or obligation to be going in there and doing anything additional with bank protection. Again, the bank protection along here is doing exactly what it's designed to. As the water comes around that curve, it hits that riprap, it's guided through the bridge, through the stream bed stabilization. That project is...
But there's no riprap on that outside curve there.
There is, well, you can see these little bits that are light colored, George.
Yeah, that light colored stuff there.
That is,
What is that?
broken concrete.
Oh,
that
that's broken
somebody has
concrete.
thrown in there.
Uh-huh.
The county project stopped here, and we're lined along here. You can see the riprap underneath the grass.
Yeah.
This is under the jurisdiction of the court.
Yes, a Corps of Engineers permit would be required if you were to do any bank correction or straightening. But they're probably not.
But somebody threw some,
No, they won't pay anything.
somebody threw some concrete in there to stop that digging.
I'm guessing that a neighbor or somebody
Yeah.
gave him that concrete or was looking to dump it somewhere. I mean, we have piles of broken concrete, typically we're crushing that for use as a road aggregate. We have a substantial pile, as you probably know, on
Oh, yeah.
Highway 20 there. It would take a Corps of engineer permit approved, just like we've done on
Right,
Little
on
Sioux.
Little
We're
Sioux.
gonna give a public hearing on that one here
Yeah.
in October. We're trying to get everything around to get that one moving again. You know, that, here we don't have to do anything to protect our structure at this point in time.
Okay. Hey,
Thanks, Mark.
Anyone else wish to be heard?
Well, as long as I have the sheriff here, I was just wondering when you'll be ready to give us a report on the small town contracts that you did. You said maybe 4 to 5 months out. I'm just wondering how it's going, impact it's had in rural patrol. I won't put you on the spot, but just to let you know, haven't forgotten about it. Seems like we've done a lot of things since then, a long time ago, but.
We're spending number of hours. Major Stallman has all that information on directed patrol, taking care of some nuisance complaints every now and then, and great feedback. I think we have some other towns that are close to signing up, so continues to progress, and we're happy with the results. And we meet with the councils monthly and discuss what we're doing in action that we have taken. So far, not really any billable actions.
I was going to say, have you
Yeah.
received any?
No, nothing there, but I think it's just communication when we meet with the mayor and the council and explain the number of calls that we may have taken in their community, which calls that wouldn't be a city ordinance, and just directed patrol. So yeah, it's going very well.
Has it impacted overtime, or
No.
are you
no,
doing okay
no,
on
it's all
that?
part of our regular patrol. By getting the deputies out of the Climbing Hill substation, we just made them more visible and accessible in the smaller communities since we had all the computer and technology in the car. So yeah, it's going very well.
the mayor's meeting a while back, and they love it.
Yeah, I think it's been good.
Love that.
Yeah, it's gone well for us, and it's just that, we meet with them, and it helps, the dialogues.
Good.
Yep, thank you.
Move we adjourn if there's no other item, Mr. Chair.
We're adjourned.